Let's take you here now. A coalition of the LGBTQIA plus organizations and University of Cape Town staff and students are today protesting against the upcoming public lecture by Kenyan Professor Patrick Lumumba to mark the economic freedom fighters' 10th anniversary. Lumumba, who is in an interview said homosexuals should be cured, is a vocal supporter of Uganda's anti-homosexual bill, which criminalizes homosexuality with harsh punishments, including the death penalty. Now, let's discuss this. We're now joined via Zoom by Khanyisil Phillips, Education Advocacy Officer at Gender Dynamics. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Khanyisil. Now, it seems like it's all systems go for Professor Lumumba to give this address. I mean, as Gender Dynamics, what are your views of, firstly, the professor's strong views? And even more interesting is the fact that his talk comes just months after Julius Malema led a march to the Ugandan embassy in Pretoria against, the anti-homosexuality bill at the time.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and the invitation to be interviewed on this matter to the SABC. I think for us, definitely, we are gathered here today in front of the Saraki Bartman lecture hall, where the anniversary lecture will be held later this evening. And of course, we are standing here as many times before, where we're mourning the loss of our beloved siblings whose lives were tragically taken away due to sponsors like those of Patrick Lumumba, in saying that, homosexuals and LGBTQ persons should be murdered, should be killed, and should be cured. And of course, a strong supporter of the anti-homosexuality bill of Uganda. And so I think it's important to note that our stance as human rights activists and student and organizations, trans and queer-led student groups, such as student organizations, so as well as allies in the space, we are deeply troubled and concerned by the actions of this university, by the University of Cape Town, and of course by the EFF in inviting and extending an invitation to Patrick Lumumba to come and deliver this lecture, a person that has been deemed a Pan-Africanist. But of course, we know that he's also a homophobic and a transphobic academic. And so I think it's really important to note that we urge the university and the political party to value all life and to value the life of humans and respect the human rights of all, including LGBTQ individuals. So I think we demand that the university and the political party, EFF, use the power as opposed to further repress denigrate and of course erase and criminalize trans and gender diverse persons, not just in South Africa, but also on the continent, to consider and re-evaluate the invitation. Of course, this is going ahead, and the lecture will be happening in less than 2 hours from now, but we are determined to share our message and to demonstrate our message collectively and in solidarity to speak to the lives lost due to the strong views, homophobic, transphobic, and hatred that has been spread by Patrick Lumumba. And of course, this is coming as a surprise that the EFF has supported the lecture and of course extended the invitation to Patrick Lumumba today, and after they of course have protested to and in front of the Ugandan Human Rights Commission in Pretoria earlier this year. So I think it's really coming as a surprise, and it really comes down to that political stance and that political instability that we're talking about, where political parties are very often playing the field. They will support when it is political season, but when it is not voting season, they might retract. Whatever is, kind of like in the headlines, will go wherever we can gain more followers. And I think this, of course, comes down to people's lives are at stake, people on the continent.
Khanyisil, let me come in there. So how many people are you expecting to be joining you today? I mean, one of the things that I'm hearing you say is, of course, that you're not only, marching against, the EFF, but you're also taking a stance against the institution, UCT itself. I mean, how dangerous do you think that, institutions and political parties, whilst they are, hold very strong views in terms of Pan-Africanists and support them, but at the same time, they're feeding into the system that is essentially, oppressing, another group or a community of people. I mean, what you talk about in terms of, the deaths of people in the LGBTQI community is that these are real stats. I mean, in 2017, it was found that, 4 in 10 LGBTQIA plus South Africans know of someone who has been murdered because of this.
So what we must understand here is that universities play a crucial role, just like schools in South Africa play a crucial role in shaping the minds and in fostering an environment that is of learning, of critical thinking, and that is of respect for diversity. I think by the university taking the stance of permitting Lumumba a platform at the university, I think it's really failing in its duty to protect its staff, its students, and of course the broader LGBTQ community in South Africa and the African continent as a whole from the harm that has been spread and the harm that might be spread today, and inevitable violence. So I think it's really for us to say that this institution needs to take a decisive decision to speak up against this, and of course not to have allowed Lumumba the platform to come and deliver the speech. I just wanted to touch on the fact that earlier this month we had some staff at UCT as well as student structures who spoke to or submitted a letter to the UCT interim vice-chancellor, the deputy vice-chancellor for transformation and the student affairs, and for student affairs and social responsiveness. And it is really disheartening to see that they have not responded to that letter and that they are quiet on the matter and that the lecture is continuing today. So I think it's really important to note that even the institution, and I mean, we've seen similar instances playing itself out where institutions, an institution like this, a public institution like UCT, should uphold the Constitution as a democratic obligation and, of course, a constitutional mandate to ensure that transgender, diverse, LGBTQ minorities, specifically gender and sexual minorities, rights are protected and that they have, of course, consented to Lumumba coming in and doing this lecture today. So we are saying that it is high time that this institution take a stance and be vocal on that stance, because we have had enough of institutions and political parties who say that they support the community by paying lip services and, of course, cosmeticized interventions and support.
Yeah, no, thanks, Khanyisil. I think we got that point. Thank you so much for your time. Of course, Khanyisil Phillips is Education Advocacy Officer at Gender Dynamics.